Hey, what's up, everybody? On this week's episode of Movie Time, we asked the age old question: were we even supposed to be here today? Well, Blake and I definitely are glad that we're here because we got to check out the latest Clerks 3. Kevin Smith basically going back and revisiting the characters and the franchise that started it all. We check it out and see if it's worth watching, and then we kind of talk about our top favorite Kevin Smith movies. So, if you're into Kevin Smith, you're going to enjoy this episode. So sit back, relax, grab your favorite snack. It's that time for Movie Time, coming at you now. Hey, what's up, everybody? Look who's back. We got Blake the Wolf back after a couple weeks off doing his God knows what and eating his peanut butter and jelly sandwich on the side there. You got the movie boys are back in town this week talking in this new episode of Movie Time. Thank you so much for tuning in. We're going to be talking about Clerks and Kevin Smith here, so really excited. But before we start all that, Blake, how have you been? I've missed you.
Dude, it's great that we're doing Clerks 3 because I'm just thinking back on the past and just playing the movie of our lives.
Mm-hmm.
And then I feel like we should make a movie about it, and then
Yeah.
this is going to be released 20 years from now, but it'll be
Yeah.
like in our dreams if you've seen Clerks 3, you know what I'm trying to get at. Um, life's good, dude. Are you ready to get into it?
Yeah, no, I'm definitely ready to get into it. But yeah, I think if we were to make a movie about ourselves and what we went through in the past, would we cast anyone or would we just play ourselves?
Do you think you wouldn't be Kevin Smith and I wouldn't be Jason Mewes? Is that what you're trying to get at, or like how would that work?
I'm not
Why would
sure.
that?
I don't know.
You could be Dwayne Johnson could play you, and I could be played by
Okay.
Jason Mewes. I'll keep Jason
You'll
Mewes, and
still
he'll just be in
keep
a
Jason
weird.
Mewes in there?
Why is it? Yeah, why is it Dwayne Johnson and Jason Mewes? Who knows? But the movie
Why
boys
not?
are here. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, we'll figure it out and we'll get into this nonsense that we're going to be talking about. But before we do, if you're brand new to this channel and you happen to see this guy here smacking away at his peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, like, you know what?
Mukbang.
I want more of that.
Yeah.
Well, make sure hit that like and subscribe buttons if you haven't done so already. Look, it doesn't cost you anything to see entertainment like this. Um, but it does help with the community grow and with supporting the channel. And I'm sorry, Blake, were you gonna say something in between chews there?
I yelled the word mukbang, but then I also wanted to let people know if you want to go to my personal channel, there's a video of me taking a bath in thousands of peanut butter and jelly. So go click that, like, subscribe on my channel if
Yeah,
you like stuff like
definitely.
that. No, obviously the reason I'm eating a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, which I don't do every episode, is because it's Clerk 3 and the fuck it level is so high. We're just showing the world as it is, man. People just hanging out in the convenience store, standing outside, talking
Yeah,
shit, man.
it's real
Listen.
life, man. This is
Real
real
life right
life.
here, peanut butter and jelly, baby. I normally
Absolutely.
eat fancy sandwiches. No. For
No,
this, we're going to fake it like we're not rich and making a movie about two dudes just hanging outside a grocery store who have
that's
not
it.
had successful careers.
That's it. Where are my chips and salsa? I gotta get some salsa, because I gotta do salsa shark real quick here. But yeah, like, subscribe. If you are an audio listener, thank you so much for listening. If you want an audio version of this where you could clearly hear the smacking of the lips as Blake is chomping away at his peanut butter and jelly sandwich, you could find it this episode on the LOWKEY GEEK channel there through your podcast platform of choice. Just type that out where I'll title this Blake chewing on PB&J while talking about Clerks, and you could download
Best
that episode.
intro ever.
Best
We're
intro
getting weird with
ever.
it today. I just
It's all
watched
good.
Clerks 3. I'm feeling delirious off it. Let's get silly. Hell yeah.
But yeah, download, rate, good stuff, all that stuff. Let's just hang out, have fun talking about movies, and in particular Clerks 3 right now. So I have actually been, and I guess in a certain, I shouldn't say have, I'm still a pretty big fan of Kevin Smith. I respect him with because of how he writes, how he took it upon himself to, become a filmmaker. Here's a guy that he wanted to make a movie and he had no money. So what did he do? He just maxed out his credit cards and funded the movie all by himself. And he made Clerks, the original Clerks, back in '92, I believe it was. And it became this indie darling, right? And it kind of just like blew up on the scene and led to his pretty big career at that time. Now, some would say that, Kevin Smith
Sorry,
isn't
90.
that big. I'm sorry,
I meant to
when was
I
it?
meant to unmute. This peanut butter jelly sandwich is causing all types of trouble. Um, Clerks 1 was 94, but his first short
94.
film was 92, something like
Gotcha.
that.
Okay.
Yeah,
Got it.
yeah.
Yeah.
We come up
Probably
with the
the
facts
plan.
here.
Yeah, the planning stages probably for Clerks happened around 92-ish, right?
Well, we obviously
Um,
spent years developing it and making such a brilliant piece of art. Sorry, I interrupted your love for Kevin Smith. Go
wow,
ahead.
talking about a sarcastic take on that. But and basically the creation of Clerks was based off of his own life, right? He worked at that quick stop. This is stuff that he dealt with. The story goes that he wanted to work at the video rental store next door, RST. But the owner happened to also own the quick stop and basically let Kevin work at the quick stop instead. So it was just, along with like his friends and whatever the case is, he decided to create this movie. And then he's gone off to make other movies. He became friends with a lot of Hollywood elite like Ben Affleck and all that. Actually, I would even argue saying that he gave Ben Affleck one of his earlier starts in Mallrats. And he's done other medias like comic books and what was that? We have Blake interrupting once again. Boy, this
Yeah.
peanut
No,
butter
hold
and
on.
jelly
Let me take another
sandwich.
big old bite, and then I'm going to talk with my mouth full. Sorry, I'm high off that jelly right now. This is really delicious. The fact that he couldn't even get a job at the damn video store. If you're talking about talent level of Tarantino versus Kevin Smith, the whole thing makes a lot more sense if you just told me that fact. Go ahead. Sorry, I'm just gonna keep talking shit and
I
interrupting.
love it.
Let me get back to
I
the sand.
love
I'm
it.
gonna hit me.
Yeah, but basically, he's also written for other media. He's done comic books, TV, all that stuff like that. And he's gotten to the point now where he's also one of those Hollywood directors who doesn't want to deal with Hollywood anymore. So what does he do is that now he crowdsources and funds all of his projects because he has this huge fan base that really follows him everywhere. He was one of the first people to start a podcast and start that whole thing where his podcast is now subscribed by millions of people. I'm sure I'm probably exaggerating, but he did start that landscape of the podcast, environment and all that, and he still does that today. He also at one point toured around the country and the world just talking about himself and his life and his career. I know that because I've attended some of those things when I've gone to Comic Cons in the past where I was able to sit down and watch Kevin Smith talk about Kevin Smith, basically. And it's so fascinating how this one person is in essence really in love with himself that he loves talking about himself everywhere he goes. And I feel like it all is now culminated into his latest film, Clerks 3. It's certain people, they get to a certain age in their life where they become very retrospective. And we're seeing that a lot lately. Fablemans, Steven Spielberg's movie about himself growing up is coming out soon. You had Kenneth Branagh, who did Belfast, about his life growing up. James Gray just released something called Armageddon Time, which is about him growing up in the '80s, like in Queens. Is there any other ones that you could think of off the top of your head?
I mean, we just talked about Armageddon Time, so
Yeah.
definitely check that one out. But that's while it's fresh, but that one's top of mind for me right now for sure.
Oh, absolutely. And we're excited to catch Fablemans because we're very curious how that's going to turn out too. But now Kevin Smith, I guess, is getting to that point in his life where he wants to relive the moments of him making his first movie. And honestly, going into Clerks 3, watching the trailer, you kind of knew that the premise was, well, Dante and Randal, they're at a certain age, and Randal has a heart attack. Now he's contemplating about his life, and he wants to make a movie now to kind of do something with himself. What I wasn't expecting was that this was going to end up becoming this meta retelling of Kevin Smith basically making the first Clerks movie, and it was kind of shocking and surprising because again, I wasn't expecting it to be that way. And it after watching the movie, it really made me feel like this was Kevin Smith once again patting himself on the back, kind of like, wanking himself off to say, "This is what I've done. This is my career, and I'm a brilliant genius," and all that. Um, it was not great. And this is coming from someone again who is a huge Kevin Smith fan, and I loved the original Clerks. I loved even Clerks 2. I was surprised that he could actually write a sequel that was not, if as good, maybe slightly better than the original Clerks. And it's because he found a way to create these ordinary dudes and turn them into actors and kind of stars within their own universe and within their own franchise and all that. And then of course he starts bringing in notables like Rosario Dawson and all that. And like I said, he's worked with so many people like Ben Affleck, Matt Damon, Chris Rock, Selma Hayek. The list goes on and on. J Lo, the with Jersey Girl and all that. Like he's been able to pull in a lot of these talented people to work together. He put, like I said, arguably Ben Affleck on the map, Jason Lee on the map when he cast him in Mallrats, and then in Chasing Amy and all that. And then his career kind of blew up after that. But of course, these two guys who play Randal and Dante, Jeff Anderson and Brian O'Halloran, they haven't done anything really much outside of the whole Kevin Smith universe, but I think that's enough for them, right? But wow, they really went back in time here, and this movie really felt like a time capsule of trying to reminisce and recapture those moments back in the early 90s as he was making this movie. They brought everybody back. And I was really, really shocked how when they started casting this film, how they just brought all the original people you saw in the original Clerks back. And let me tell you, getting old sucks, man. Getting old
Could have used a
really
little more
sucks.
CGI on this in
Yeah,
this movie.
getting old is pain. It like really sucks, and you could really tell how getting old really affected a lot of people.
Kind of what the
Uh,
movie's about in a certain
right,
way, right? Because
absolutely,
it is him telling the story about the first movie, but it's also my friend is on his deathbed and now he's looking back on the past, and
yeah,
that's all you really need to know is that's the
right.
headspace that this movie is in.
No, absolutely. And I have a feeling this also kind of all came about when Kevin Smith himself had suffered from a heart attack. So it kind of plays parallels of you have your character within the movie having a heart attack, having like one of those come to life moments and figuring out that maybe he needs to do more stuff with his life or change how he lives his life and all that. Kevin Smith had to do the same thing, in his own personal life. So I feel like this very much parallels his own life. So once again, it's Kevin Smith talking about himself, reminiscing and living life and carry on and all that kind of stuff like that. So again, not exactly what I was expecting, and very, very, quite a departure from Clerks 2, especially like how Clerks 2 was kind of formulated and put together there. But Blake, I know you couldn't have. I couldn't stop you from saying enough about this movie and how much you were really all over it and loved it
Hmm.
while you
Hmm.
were in mid PB and J fixing. So, what were your thoughts as you were watching this movie?
Listen, man, the only bigger Kevin Smith fan than me is Kevin Smith himself. Listen, buddy, I could go around the country talking about Kevin Smith. Uh, Dude, they made dolls about us that people have in their collections, and like I can buy that and then put that in my house. And like,
Yeah,
what else could you want from your career, dude?
no, absolutely.
No, fuck this movie. I'm gonna just real quick. I'm gonna stop being such a punk for 1 second. I like Clerks. I liked Dogma. Uh, th- I hated this movie so much. I was gonna do like a retrospective, like, oh, let me catch out up on all the ones I missed. He was a little before my time, and after seeing Clerks 3, I honestly said, nope. I watched one short film of his that was 7 minutes, and I said, nah, absolutely, I'm done with this whole project. I literally couldn't after this movie. it sucks when you want to look back and like celebrate your career or your life and think about it, and then that ends up getting in the way of people. Like you can actually hurt your legacy that way, right? Like we're talking about Kobe Bryant's last season, which RIP Kobe Bryant, everything's different now through that lens. But that last season is like, oh, we're gonna celebrate Kobe, and in so doing, give him all the time in the ball, and he was just ruined a whole season for the Lakers. He did have a really special last game, thank goodness, or else that would have just been way sadder. But there's times where people get in their own way trying to celebrate their legacy, or other people trying to celebrate their legacy. It's like, no, just if you had just stopped, it would have been a lot better off. Or just one more trip around the sun, baby. Let's go.
Right. Right.
This movie sucked. Like I'm looking at one reason I like Clerks. I really like slow '90s independent American cinema. That is like my Jim Jarmusch is my favorite director. That is my absolute go-to. And if we're talking about directors from that era, not just necessarily that type, but if we're talking about like Richard Linklater,
Yeah.
Gus Van Sant, Jim Jarmusch, Paul Thomas Anderson's first movie is only a couple years after this one.
Yeah.
Tarantino's first movie is the same year as Clerks,
Yep.
and he's winning the Palme d'Or for that. If you like look at Kevin Smith's bonkers ass career, where at some point we're gonna go over our top fives, and I had to clarify, like, are we talking about directors? Because he was an extra in one of the Die Hard movies, so I kind of
Yeah.
almost want to like he had a cameo there, so I almost would put that above like 2/3 of his oeuvre. That it was like I'm honestly also kind of mad. One reason I'm kind of in this mood is he could have been really great, and he can be, and he has moments where he's great. And there's even times during this movie where I go, "Oh yeah, Kevin Smith, he's got a good eye. He
Yeah.
knows his stuff." But this movie is absolutely not it. And if you want to celebrate the legacy of Clerks, watch Clerks. Do
Yeah.
not watch this one. It'll have the opposite effect, unfortunately.
Yeah. No, I agree. It was, again, as someone who grew up watching his movies, and like I said, like he was at one point a huge inspiration for me because, again, not, you know, didn't have any money, wanted to make a movie, decided to take it upon himself, and was able to put together this film that got so much acclaim during that time. And I think it was also perfect timing too, because like you said, around that time in the '90s, you had a lot of these independent directors who were just starting and putting their stuff out there, getting recognition. And I think this was also during the time when there was a switch in movie making where it wasn't only about the blockbusters anymore. Now there was this like love and need for more of these indie movies, more of these like more personal stories, stuff that are way far out there. I always say Pulp Fiction was one of those movies that kind of opened me up to, wow, there are more movies than your Star Warses and Indiana Jones and all that stuff like that. And then shortly after, I came across Clerks for Kevin Smith, and I was like, wow, the dialogue, the jokes, the jokes were so like mature and very like dark and all that, but still it was funny, it was thought provoking, and there was certain messages in there as well. Um, and Kevin is able to write great dialogue, meaningful moments. We've seen it in other movies.
Yep.
I think one of the things that I think most people will say is that Chasing Amy was one of those movies that no one ever thought someone could make, but also make an impact as well, as far as storytelling is concerned. With such a taboo subject, too, at that time. And
Right.
again, you have to think about the time this came out. So, he is very innovative in a lot of those ways, but I think with Clerks 3, unfortunately, it was just one of those things that I'm doing a service for the fans. This is just for the diehard Kevin Smith fans who loves my stuff, who loves my universe, who loves me, who loves my characters, and I'm just gonna fluff it with all the stuff that they love, and make jokes that only they can get, that only I can get. This was definitely just a movie that he made for himself, for the fans that follow him. He had all of his buddies in the movie. The guy he does a podcast with has a role in this movie. It's just like everyone that he's like buddies with are in this movie. The guys who run the comic book shop, they all find their way in this movie. It's just one of those things where, he's just doing this movie for all of these people and for all of the people that fund it and follow him and all that, which again, nothing wrong with that. But it makes me miss the Kevin Smith that we've seen before. And I want to see Kevin Smith do more groundbreaking stuff, which I think he's still he still can do. But again, maybe just he's at that point in his life where he's just like, you know what, I can do the fan service stuff right now because that's what people will pay me for. That's what people will, buy and all that stuff like that. And yeah, I'm glad I didn't see this in the theater. I'm glad I didn't go to one of those screenings that he was touring around with, where he would show the movie and then talk afterwards about it, because I think I would have been a little
Oh,
pissed off.
a little much at that point.
Yeah.
Like, okay, you just did it in the movie. You just shut up. Just shut up.
It's like I don't need to hear you talk about this movie anymore because yeah, I'm
In the movie
done.
where you talked about your other movie.
Right, yeah.
I can't. There's no way.
Yeah, so
Eventually,
basically,
the House of Cards will fall apart, my
oh
guy.
my god, yeah. It's again as if he couldn't get enough of himself. He decides to narrate the reason why he makes this movie during the closing credits of the movie. It's just like, if I wanted to hear about this, I would have seen like an extra or a YouTube video of you talking about it. Why are you forcing me to listen to you talk again about this movie and like how it was when back in the early 90s when you created Clerks and you did your movie and all that. Look, God bless him. That the fact that he can like have the ability to feel like, oh, you know what, I'm important enough that I can do this. Why not? But whew.
It feels almost like he had the insight. Oh, Hollywood is full of itself. If I'm full of myself, people will take me seriously. And it's
Yeah,
just like been playing it's like a scam of a career. But or maybe he's like some kind of megalomaniac. I will say, I'm an avid podcast listener, and if you are too, you should check out Low Key Geek on the podcast of your app of your choosing. But one of my, a longtime fave is You Made It Weird with Pete Holmes and Kevin Smith did an episode recently. Absolutely amazing. This guy has a great brain. He's a great
yeah,
storyteller. Was genuinely funny throughout, and I really have respect for Kevin Smith, the dude who cares about movies and has made
yeah,
some really good movies. Which is again why this was such a disappointment.
yeah,
I think it makes sense, right? He's in a retrospective mode, and there is something where in your life you say, "Oh, this is the most important thing that's happened to me." And there's a little like debate dialogue happening because in that podcast it'll always get like semi-religious or metaphysical or whatever. I'll talk about like what's the meaning of life and stuff.
hmm,
And at some point, Kevin Smith's talking about like, well, what did I do all this for if there's not an afterlife where I can like look back on it? And literally, this is the mindset of a man who, and they get into a little debate about it. Like that can't be what you're living for, is to be able to appreciate that you made these movies. And literally, like, it wasn't ironic or tongue in cheek. It's like kind of the attitude of this movie of like, no, I made these things and it was important. Promise, trust me. Listen, everyone, listen to me. I made a movie like, and it is actually beautiful. Like who hasn't had the dream of, oh, me and my buddies are gonna make a movie
oh,
or gonna
absolutely,
get discovered randomly, and oh, I'm gonna be
yeah,
friends with Ben Affleck, one of the biggest stars of the night, and I'm just some random kid from New Jersey. Like that is actually a lovely story. I
yeah,
wish it had been told better in this
yeah,
movie for sure. And I think the perspective I'm coming at it too is I'm kind of a half-baked Kevin Smith fan. I'm like coming into it. I've appreciated a few of his movies. I've loathed a few of his movies. I haven't seen a lot of them. I'm glad that you're here to explain more of that in-joke stuff or give that insight.
yeah,
I know there were multiple times I go, I bet that was an inside joke that I'm just not, because I haven't seen Clerks in 10 years and I just don't
mhm,
remember that joke. Or even the characters are referencing the in-jokes that they're making to, oh, remember all the crazy stuff that me and Dante said when we were standing up
yeah,
here? What if we made a movie about that?
yeah.
So if you are a diehard Clerks fan, you've already seen this movie. We don't have to sell you on it or sell you against it at all. I mean, you probably even had like, oh yeah, that was fun. There's not enough. Like that's not enough to get new folks like me who are either on the fence or, hey, I'm gonna need you to actually make a good product again,
Mhm.
in order for me to stay on the Kevin Smith train. And now I'm fully off it right now.
Yeah, no, I don't blame you. Again, being like a partial fan of his, then I could totally see how a movie like this can completely turn you off. Like with me, it was if anything, it was just a major disappointment because again, like you said, he's a great storyteller. I love, even though it sounds silly to sit down on him talking about himself and his life, but the way he tells these stories are so engaging and has like comedy and realism to it. He paints a very beautiful picture so you could actually see these things happening. He just has that gift where he has a gift of gab, right? Where he could just really tell stories and talk. And listening to him talk has always been fascinating. And I've heard him on other shows where he could just go off and on tangents and rants and all that, and it's engaging. It's always been engaging, and that's one of the reasons why I look forward to his movies because I feel like he can write the same way. But with this, it just feels like I don't know where that went. It just seems like very tongue in cheek, a parody of itself, a parody of like everything that he's done in the past, even down to his directing of the people in the film. Because if you actually took the time to watch Clerks 2, right, and you compared the acting in that movie to the acting in this movie, you would probably wonder what happened
Mm.
because the acting is like way over the top in most of the time, and almost like I said, a parody of themselves acting in a movie about themselves. And it was just like, where did this come from? Because the people when Clerks 2 came out, people were saying like, "Oh, this guy who plays Randal, he's actually a pretty good actor." Or this guy who plays Dante, wow, he's the chemistry he has with Rosario Dawson. Wow, it's amazing. When you see this movie, and especially like during the emotional moments of the movie, you're like, I trying not to laugh because it
Hmm.
looks very comical when it's a moment that's not supposed to be. So, and we'll talk some spoiler stuff just to clarify some of the things we're talking about like in a little bit. But yeah, it was again just very very disappointing. But I'm sure there's going to be a lot of Kevin Smith fans out there who love this movie, who enjoy this movie, who thought it was maybe a proper homage to a movie like this in the past. The one thing I will say, again, to go to your point about the inside jokes, and those in the know will know. And this is not a spoiler at all because this is actually in the trailer when they were talking about that one scene where Dante's character is supposed to die because he's gonna get shot by that one dude. That was an actual ending of the original Clerks movie that Kevin Smith filmed.
Mm.
And he originally had that as the ending, but he felt that it was a very morbid ending to this story that he decided to cut it and not have that as part of it. But it's been filmed. You can
Hmm.
find it as a deleted scene on the DVDs and all that stuff like that. So, but again, if you didn't know that, then you would just be like, "Oh, okay, that's kind of funny." But then it's like inside joke of an inside joke of something that actually happened, and if you knew, you knew.
I already
So
blocked
yeah,
Clerks 3 out of my memory, so I don't even remember like where that would fit in or what that would have. Clerks 2 was so long ago.
yeah,
That's the level of energy I'm coming into with. But it does make sense to not throw this on a streamer or like Netflix's front page. People are having to pay to see
yeah.
this movie still. That's pretty smart because now you go, oh, if you're in on the Clerks project and the
Mhm.
Kevin Smith of it all, and you're a big enough fan, you'll pay 15 bucks to see it early. Because I don't know like who would buy this for how much money and put it on their just fill out the Amazon Prime library with this one, put some ads on
Yeah,
it, so it at least makes some money off that. But that actually does kind of make sense. Like almost like a Patreon type of, or like him having
sure.
the fans crowd fund the movies.
Mhm.
I understand him wanting to be bought out of Hollywood, but I'm curious what the true like the fans who saw this and loved it, like what percentage of people are we talking? Like how much are we
Mm.
making off of this? And is that a sustainable product when you kind of sell your concept up the river? And it happens in so many things where they go, oh, we need to make one more sequel, we need to make one more sequel, and then now it's watered down and it lost the cachet that it had.
Yeah.
And that actually would kind of be sad if the Clerks 3 is what kind of like killed the whole the like the whole machine. where people who bought that one go, actually, I'm not going to buy the next one. And
Yeah.
at some point, that would dwindle unless you turn in more quality products again. I don't know.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I will say before we carry on and move on from here, another reason why this was also a big disappointment for me because I thought Jay and Silent Bob Reboot was actually a really decent movie. You know, because again, it deals with the subject matter of getting older in life and changing your ways and realizing that okay, now I have to grow up and I have to, realize certain things. So when Jay, played by Jason Mewes, realizes that in that movie, it was actually very touching and kind of heartwarming and all that. So I was kind of hoping for maybe the same effect with these two characters that we've known for God knows how many years now. But instead, it just felt very flat and it felt flat for me. And I'm just like, okay, I honestly, I could go on without even seeing any more of any of these people ever again. Like, I think the door has been closed in the Clerks universe for me. I'm pretty much done. If they decide to do anything else, more power to them. And again, bless them for whatever the case is. But that being said, have you been a huge fan of Kevin Smith? Are you a huge fan of Clerks? Did you actually help fund this movie when he was doing his crowdfunding and crowdsourcing and all that? Let us know in the comments. We want to know from the Smith fans out there. Yeah, was this something that you were happy with? Was this something that you were expecting? Or are you like us, were you left disappointed? Let us know in the comments. We love to hear about it. Let's have a discussion about this movie because I'm sure, if anything, as we know from fandom, especially like Star Wars, things can be divisive, and this may be the divisive Kevin Smith film ever in his library, especially if you're a Kevin Smith fan and all that.
Divisive, like one person really, really loved it, and everyone
Right.
else absolutely just was like, "Why?" Yeah, that. I don't know if that's what divisive means, but I genuinely am curious. I'm sure if you're one of those folks and you're gonna watch every Clerks review and you want to throw down in the comments, like I was pretty mean about this movie. Renee was like also mean, but maybe not as mean as me. I'm genuinely curious, like if there's somebody who's like, no, here's why this is actually, and there's like a meta thing, and there's a way where like, oh, this is a deeper thing in entering the Clerks franchise because it's about the whole thing and how it's all meaningless or something like that. Like it
Hmm.
wasn't supposed to be good. Like tell me that if that's the case, and I'll at least go like, oh, okay, maybe he didn't mess up his vision of it. Maybe that was on
Right.
purpose that it was so bad, something like that. But if you've got a reason, please, like why this exists, definitely let us know because I'm still curious and I've seen it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We're both curious, because again, like I am more of a fan, but I too was left very disappointed with this movie. Hey everybody, are you a fan of collectibles, action figures, Funko Pops, and all that stuff like that? Do me a favor and visit entertainmentearth.com and you won't be sorry. Entertainment Earth is the premier place online for the latest and greatest toys, the most exciting action figures, and the coolest gifts and collectibles pop culture has to offer. From television, movies, sports, celebrities, comics, internet memes, and every fandom in between, they drop new products daily and curate their selection so that you don't miss out. Whether you're looking for something stellar from a galaxy far, far away with Star Wars, or from the streets of Gotham City with DC Comics, they've got surprises for everyone. Get access to exclusive releases and limited run pre-orders. You can even reserve hard-to-find items before they arrive. From Funko to Hasbro, all your favorite vendors are represented in their robust catalog of cool collectibles. Take advantage of their unparalleled industry expertise and make your collection as worthy as Marvel's Thor. They are pleased to offer risk-free shopping with their industry-leading mint condition guarantee and hassle-free 90-day returns. Find that grail you're seeking for yourself or someone you love. And because I know how special they are and how they're going to be great for a lot of you out there, I worked a special deal with them that if you check out the link featured in the description of this episode, you will get 10% off plus free shipping over orders of $40 or more. I mean, that is fantastic, don't you think? Now, the 10% discount is only good for in-stock merchandise, so it doesn't work for any pre-orders, but if you take a look at their site, there's going to be a lot of stuff they have in stock that you'll probably want to get. So again, visit that special link in the description of this episode to take advantage of this awesome 10% offer plus free shipping and buy yourself or a loved one something really cool. Entertainment Earth, so many toys, so much fun. But let's talk. There has to have been some redeeming stuff in this movie, or some things that maybe you laughed at that you weren't expecting to laugh at. So we'll take a brief moment to talk spoilers for some stuff that was done in this movie. Maybe, Blake and I can come to some sort of common ground. It's like, you know what? We both found this part funny, and this is why.
Oh,
So I'm going to throw it to you.
for sure. 1000%. Yeah. No, it's when the credits ended and then my screen turned to the home screen and I said, "Thank God it's over." That was the funniest and best part of the movie. Is when it finally stopped.
Okay. All right. That's it?
That's the highlight
Okay.
reel of the movie is the last .01, and then that's it. There's like highlight all the best clips from Clerks 3. Come
Right,
check it
right,
out on YouTube,
right.
and it's a YouTube short, but it's even shorter than the maximum amount of time allowed for a short. It's just the last name of the credits going. That's it. Um,
Uh,
okay, let me just try to think of one nice thing to say about this
All right.
fucking
Well, while
movie.
you think of that, I'll
Yeah,
say some things that I found that was
the
funny,
cameos. Go ahead. I
and
have one.
yeah,
Go ahead.
and
Yeah.
and some things that were shocking that I'm surprised they went this route. And maybe I found disappointing. So I guess the biggest shock to me was learning that Dante's girlfriend slash whatever Rosario Dawson's character from Clerks 2 is dead at this point. It turns out that she died back in 2006, shortly after Dante agreed to stay with her and not go to Florida with his then girlfriend at the time, or fiance at the time. She was pregnant with his baby. So it was really shocking to find out that she was dead, apparently killed in a car accident, and with child in belly. And I thought, wow, that was very brutal and harsh to find out when that was kind of explained in this movie. But going back to what I said earlier, those moments of him dealing with that grief and him, crying and emoting and then seeing her ghost and talking, having conversations with her ghost and all that should have felt more emotional, but I found it almost at certain times wanting to laugh at it because it just, and I think this has to do with his acting this time around. It just was not, for me, believable. Now, Rosario was fine. You're dealing with, a well established actress, and she's good in a lot of things she does. But with him, it always threw me off every time those emotional beats hit the screen, and I just didn't feel those emotional moments the way I probably it was meant to have felt. So I don't know. Did you feel the same way there, Blake?
I know when they talked about the car crash, I remember thinking to myself, I wish that every copy of Clerks 3 had been in that same car with Rosario Dawson, and that would have been a better ending to this whole franchise. But no, I love Rosario Dawson very, very
Yes,
much.
same.
An all-time fave. The acting from the two main dudes was really bad, and it kind of made me wonder, like, is something wrong here?
Mhm.
Like are I was going, it's kind of like seeing Jackass, the most recent one. I'm like, okay, is somebody on drugs? Is this guy, like, is he not okay? Did he lose too many brain cells? Like, what's I and uh, that most recent Jackass movie way better and smarter
Oh,
and more
absolutely.
clever than this one. I'm
Mhm.
not trying to make any comparison on that, but I was literally going like is everyone's did everyone show up to set today who's in this movie? Because I couldn't
Yeah.
tell. Um, and yeah, I 100% remember there's a scene where he's crying, and I kept. There's things where it's so sad. You kind of have that like, what's the old lyric? The I always laugh at a funeral. Can't understand what I mean, but you assume whatever. God, that '90s song. It's the one where it's like it's so painful and like tense. You just like. But this wasn't that. This was like I thought he was about to make a big fart joke or something. Like I thought this character was about to like, just kidding. I'm not actually
Right.
crying, babe. Like it didn't even feel it. It didn't feel earned at all. And there,
Yeah.
like honestly, the crying, the acting of the crying wasn't that bad. and that's why I was all like, there's got to be a joke here because they're really selling this moment
Hmm.
in this movie that is like a farce of itself,
Yeah.
of a copy of an old version of itself. Like, and there's a if we're talking about like moments we like, there's a moment where they're in the movie theater, and I really like there's movies where they put characters in a movie theater and they're sitting up and enjoying the movie. And I feel that way when I watch movies. I love movies so
Hmm.
much. I remember thinking like, oh, this is a really beautiful moment. It's like the story of his life. And I looked at the people on the screen, then I looked at the characters as they are now. I was like, oh no, something is very uncanny and wrong with this. Like, it'd be like if a wax museum version of your favorite movie was playing and then it was melting before your eyes. Like, not, it was an unholy sight in that way, like the current version of it. And there's times where it kind of reminded me of, which we're not going back to the most recent Matrix. We don't have the time. But there's times where they would show the old Matrix movies in the newest Matrix movie. And there's
Right.
people who are like, yeah, what you're kind of doing right now, it's not good because you're showing me the great, great thing that I love and remember, and now you're doing the fan service like
Right.
current version. I'm like, I wish can we just put that movie? Actually, just don't go back. Can we just keep playing the old movie?
Yeah.
I had that feeling on this one for sure. There was moments that where I'm a bit of a sap, and based on like storytelling, it seems like Kevin Smith is too. Like he's for
Oh, absolutely.
a
Yeah.
dirtbag Gen X kind of guy. Like he can get emotional in his
Hmm.
storytelling and is affected by the things that happen around him, the people he loves. So there was something about the sentimentality of this movie that I actually did find kind of heartwarming. It was kind of lovely to see friends hanging out, and even
Yeah.
though they made a crappy movie, it's kind of like, oh yeah, we're getting the gang back together, and I missed you guys so much. And there's something nice about that. I'm just trying to think of nice things. I think I got one more in me maybe after that, but that's a nice thing to see the gang back together. You mentioned that before.
Yeah, no, 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 definitely. Again, we're ragging on this movie left and right, but there are moments that if you really just take a step back and look at what he did here, obviously this was like lightning in a bottle for him, right? When he made this first movie, and it blew up, made him a prominent director, name around Hollywood, all that stuff like that. A lot of the people that were in that movie were people that he knew, people that he grew up with in the neighborhood and all that. And he brought them back, to kind of just, hey, we did this great thing back in 94. I want to pay tribute and homage to that. And I want you back here with me to kind of, retell this and relive it again. Every bit player that was in the original movie, the guy who was trying to sell the Chuli's gum with the lung that's on the counter, he's back in this movie. The one who plays his girlfriend, who used to always bring him pasta at work. She comes back in this movie, and they had this really funny moment where, they haven't seen each other for a while, and it's like, hey, it's really good to see you. Oh, great, you want to fuck now? Like they just go at it in the car, and I thought that was like really funny. It's just like all these people. The guy who sees the cat taking a dump in the kitty litter, they brought that dude back. It's just, and a lot of these people are in their older, stages in life, and it's kind of nice just to be like, hey, I never forgot you people, because of you guys, this is what, got me to where I am now and all that. So that was very sweet. And I will say, even though I rag on the emotional bits, by the actor Brian O'Halloran, um, the one scene where he blows up at the end, where he just had it and he's done with Randal, and he
Yeah.
has this huge emotional outburst that actually felt real. And when I saw that, I was like, where was this the whole time? Like I wanted to see more of like this, that level of acting, and that was phenomenal. And you really that was the one part where I felt that, wow, this is really real. And he, this guy pouring his heart out, saying, "I'm done with your nonsense and blah blah blah, this and that, and your life is my life, and I've lived all this, and maybe you had a heart attack, but I died a long time ago when, Becky, I believe her name was, when she died, and all that kind of stuff. And it was so heartfelt when that happened, and that led to that moment where he's watching his life replay in front of his eyes in a movie theater and all that, because that's a metaphor about when you pass and when you go, that's how your last moments will be like, or whatever the case is. So that was great, but again, we didn't get a lot of that here in this movie. I will say also another standout for me was Elias. The actor there is Trevor Fehman, because in Clerks 2, we were introduced to this character Elias, who is very into Jesus, and comes from a very like religious family and very innocent and all that, and we kind of see some of that innocence breaking at the end of the movie. Here we see him do a complete turnaround where it's just like, all my life has been wasted because I always pray to Lord and Jesus Christ, and it's because of him, my friend is dying in the hospital, so F you, Jesus. Basically, he says that and just goes to satanic worship. And how every time we saw him on screen, he was in a different garb, in a different, like devilish garb, where, he starts putting on face paint and makeup and all this kind of outfits. I thought that was actually one of those like funny gags that would they threw in there, where it's just like, okay, how is he gonna look like now in this scene? And literally every scene he shows up, he's like a different looking person, and I thought that was actually pretty hilarious. One thing I didn't like was his buddy, who is actually Kevin Smith's son. And again, is
Really?
yeah, yeah. I'm sure you didn't know that,
Okay.
but yeah.
Honestly, I liked. Okay, that's
Oh,
so
you did
funny.
like him? Okay.
I that was one of the only characters that I just thought like was good. Now it was another self-referential. He's like a little Silent Bob or whatever. Oh,
Yeah,
you got your own
yeah.
corny, sure. Oh, we get it. You're referencing yourself. I don't know if it was his son. That makes it make more sense. I actually thought that actor had more charisma and charm than the dude next to him who had all the lines. Maybe
Mm.
that's easier or an easier role to play. I thought that like just watching that character interact with people, silent was entertaining to me.
Oh, you know what? I let me correct myself. That's not his son. I I mistook him because I think Kevin Smith did a web series where he played his son, and I think that was the last time I saw
For
him.
yeah, this is either way. It's not his first time doing nepotism stuff. His daughter
Yeah,
is in Clerks 3,
yeah.
and has been in a couple other movies. So um, that mistake that makes sense. Um, for me, and I think it's kind of part of it's like nepotism and like, oh yeah, I think part of it might just be we only have so much money and can we just who's available. So
Right.
when you're getting that deep, I'm going through the list of cameos because that was one of my favorite things about this
Oh
movie.
yeah,
As a movie lover, I always love to see other famous people in movies and movie stars in movies like this. That was actually fun.
yeah.
But my favorite one on this list from slashfilm.com is Kevin Smith's assistant and her husband are in this movie. And then I'm looking at like who is this person, trying to figure that out. That's where I learned that their first credit in Hollywood was a thank you from Kevin Smith's 2002 film, An Evening with Kevin Smith, where Kevin Smith talks about Kevin Smith at various venues around the country. So
See?
I'm not sure if this is like a, oh, let's get the gang back together, or if it's like a, hey, who do you know? Oh, my
Yeah.
assistant can play somebody's mom. Um, the list of cameos, let's just blast them off, say.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
Um,
actually have it up here with me right now. So I'm gonna put this on the screen so that we can
nice.
all play along.
Sounds fun.
And yeah, but yeah, you're right. The list of characters here is actually the cameos is actually pretty big. So hold on, let
And some of
me
them are in jokes for Clerks fans, like, oh, this is the guy who held the thing in the back of the
yeah.
store of the whatever, and probably was available because his career didn't take off.
Yeah, no,
But other
absolutely.
folks are like proper bona fide stars, or I haven't seen them in a while. Amy Sedaris,
Yeah.
great. Always love to see
Yeah.
Amy Sedaris in a real role, not just
Yeah,
like a little
and it
shout
was
out role.
interesting. It was interesting too because Amy Sedaris was there. She played the doctor that was operating on Randal as he had his heart attack, and they kept talking about Star Wars and The Mandalorian, which is a show that she's on,
Oh,
which
thank
is
you. Yes,
which
okay.
is
Oh
really
yeah,
really
she was great
hilarious.
in that role. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but Justin Long again, someone that Kevin has worked with multiple times, is in this movie. Sarah Michelle Gellar is in this movie,
And her hubby, Freddie
and her
Prinze Jr.
hubby, yeah, FPJ is in there
Hmm.
too. Ben Affleck does come back, and of course, he's always gonna support Kevin with whatever he does. Anthony Michael Hall is in this movie. Bobby Moynihan, Donald Rawlings.
Bobby Moynihan doing a great Kevin Smith,
Yeah,
Silent Bob. I think that was great.
It was so
Sorry.
good. Yeah. Like you're right. Like that cameo stuff was really funny. Fred Armisen was in there also. But it does feel like whoever was walking around the set at any given moment it was like, "Hey, you free right now? Just film this real
Danny
quick."
Danny Trejo was trying to go to a different movie set. He was like, "Hey,
Right.
is this?" They're like, "Hey, actually, come here real quick." They just used whatever
Yeah.
the first thing said. Donnell Rawlings, who I know from
Yeah.
Chappelle's show mainly.
Mhm.
That was great. I'm sure we mentioned Ben Affleck, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
Kate McCucci is a favorite comedian of mine. She was good in this. Apparently, the Impractical Jokers. Like I'm going through the list. I don't know who some of these people necessarily
Yeah,
are.
the three
Like I
guys
wouldn't
from
recognize
Impractical
them,
Joke.
but
Yeah.
they're famous, right?
Yeah, they are. Yeah, a
Um,
lot of people love them. Melissa Benoist, she plays Supergirl. Which Kevin's written some of those shows, so it makes sense that he was able to get her to cameo in this one as well. His podcast partner, like I mentioned before, Mark Bernardin, he shows up in this movie at one point. Chris Wood, who's actually, I believe, the reason why he made that Power of Grayskull kind of comment is because I think he was one of the voices of. I think he played the voice of He-Man in the Kevin Smith directed Masters of the Universe cartoon on Netflix. So I think
okay,
that's why he's in
I'll
this
take your word for
movie.
that.
Yeah,
I'm sure that's right. I would
yeah,
have no idea.
yeah.
Michael Chiklis, who played I hate talking to comic book folks who know. Michael Chiklis played in the Thing in the Fantastic Four movies, the older
Correct. That
ones.
is
Yep.
correct. And he's
Michael
also on
Chiklis.
the Shield.
The Yes, of course. As a big fan of comic books, I love that TV movie.
No, the Shield is not a comic book.
I know what the Shield is, of course. It's a book.
For those of you out there who doesn't know, yeah.
This movie is I'm thinking about it. If you're the kind of person who edits Kevin Smith's Wikipedia page, you are gonna love this freaking
Oh
movie. This
yeah.
was made for the 17 people who do that. I'm sure those fans, it's fan service for those folks.
No, absolutely, yeah. But yeah, other than that, I mean, there's really not much to talk about or spoil in this movie because again, it's just if you have it in your mind that you have these people going back and filming the original movie just today, that's basically what this movie is. So you could just imagine that all the jokes have been repeated, all of the cameos and situations and scenarios have been repeated, maybe with some additional flavor here and there. Um, but yeah, that's really basically it. But I mean, these are at least for us some of the highlights there. Was there anything else you wanted to add there? Like,
Yeah. Also the cameos and the mm, yep, that's it. Yep. There was a gas station. Some of the signs on the gas station were funny.
yeah,
Um, that was "We are in mourning, we promise," something like that.
right,
I
right.
honestly, to me, Silent
The quick
Bob.
stop. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Yep. Silent Bob to me is actually a compelling movie character.
Hmm.
I would rather see a Silent Bob Charlie Chaplin situation than another Clerks. And
Oh,
then, actually, sorry, you would know the lore of Jay and Silent Bob. He's talked before, because
yes, yes.
and he just like talks
So
once per movie when it's important or something like that. Is that the gig?
exactly. It's
Okay.
always been like at that moment where there needs to be a certain message relayed or like a
Yeah.
moment of truth moment or whatever. In this case, he talks because he becomes like I guess cameraman or director of photography for this. So he starts talking philosophical. He starts waxing knowledge about. Well, I think we should film this in black and white because da 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 da.
He's
And
talking about Clerks. He's giving a
right,
reaand why it was filmed in black and white.
exactly.
At
Yeah,
the end, they're like, "Well, there's actually kind of like three or four reasons," and meh. It was a
yeah.
bit of like and, you know that kind of makes sense, right? Like that, yeah. And maybe it was because of budgeting reasons, or who knows, or maybe he
Yeah,
just thought
well,
it'd be a quirky decision.
right. Well, again, it's Kevin Smith once again defending why he did certain things.
Pontificating.
Yeah,
Yep.
pontificating because he also mentions how plus it's also like as a viewer watching things through a security camera while things are playing blah blah blah. That's why black and white, yeah. Which is all things he's said in the past too, if you've ever hear him talk about the making of Clerks. But I thought that was pretty interesting and funny.
Yep. Yeah, a quick aside. One thing I actually enjoyed when he was doing the podcast is that I was talking about earlier. He was talking about people who just talk shit online, and
Yeah.
I I have not made Clerks. I am glad that Kevin Smith exists. I am glad that he is trying things. I'm glad he's taking risks. I'm glad that he has fans. I'm glad that
Yeah.
those fans enjoy these movies. I hope that they enjoy this one very, very much. Just like throwing pot shots or something at somebody who's like a very like I salute creators for doing the things that they do,
Hmm.
and I also, as a fan of movies, want to warn other people who love movies that like you, if you're going to choose between movies this weekend, I personally would not choose Clerks 3.
Right. Yeah.
And I would love so much to see Kevin Smith maybe take a Hollywood contract and get a budget where he can make something really special, like whatever it is he does, or even go back to the drawing board and like put the script here, this like do a new thing that's different but also
Yeah.
low budget. I love a good low budget indie movie from that's along the lines of Clerks. It's not going to necessarily be even possible for him to recreate that magic. It doesn't necessarily strike twice, but you don't have to just keep telling stories about that magic. So I really, really hope his next movie is really good. Um, Shout out Kevin Smith for still doing his damn thing.
No, for sure. And again, we're poking fun of this movie. We're killing it. We're ragging on it. But we also said how much we respect Kevin as a writer, as a creative person, being able to do all of that stuff. I just think now it's time for him to get away from this, get away from these
Do
characters.
more
I mean,
tusks. Yeah,
right.
do more
Yeah.
weird stuff that people aren't expecting you to do.
No, absolutely. And like when he was doing those things, like it drew attention. We're like, whoa, wait a minute, this is from Kevin Smith. Like, whoa, we didn't know he had this in him. And I think more people wants to see that stuff. I mean, it's great to revisit things every now and then, but I think it's been done enough. And I think now it's time to step away from this. Put it in the archive, put it in the vault. Mark this as a moment in time where these people, these characters, this movie meant something to a lot of people. Now I can do something different here because I know how personal he takes criticism too. Um, like I mentioned, the Netflix cartoon Masters of the Universe, he got so much hatred online because of his choices and creative decisions in that show that it really affected him. And I think he talks about that a lot now, about all that stuff. So I mean, it's the internet. People will say what they have to say. Look at us. Yeah, we're talking our nonsense here and all that stuff like that. But at least we're respected, and we're being respectable. And we're
Respectful?
respected. Yeah, well, I think so a little bit.
Okay.
You
Yeah, I was being pretty disrespectful for parts of it, but
know. Hey guys, I hope you're enjoying this episode so far. But before we continue, I wanted to quickly talk about Bulletproof Coffee. Bulletproof Coffee is my favorite coffee of choice to start off my mornings with. Why? Because it's clean coffee. What does that mean? Well, one, there are no chemicals in it. Why? Because they go through this multi-step process of making sure that all of their beans are fully clean and free of any chemicals so that when you get the beans delivered to you, it is the pure beans, the pure coffee, the goodness that you've been wanting, the taste, the flavor, and the nutritional value as well, without worrying about any added chemicals or anything else put into the mix there. It also doesn't have that weird acidic taste that some coffees give you. I don't know how about you, but for me, some coffees kind of give me that weird sensation in my stomach, makes me a little burpy, and it kind of drags me down a little bit instead of really waking me up, which is something that I need from my coffee every day. Bulletproof also offers a lot of keto-friendly snacks and supplements, anything that you need to kind of add to your everyday nutritional needs, add to your diet, pretty much transforms the way you feel every day. So for a limited time, if you use this code that you see on the screen right now, LOWKEY GEEK, all caps, one word, you can get 15% off your order. So what is it better than that, right? Check out the link in the description of this episode. Use this code, get yourself your discount, and make your mornings a little bit more bulletproof with Bulletproof Coffee. Now, back to the episode. But enough spoiler talk. I think now is a good segue to, since we are talking about Kevin Smith and all that stuff. He has, since 94, he's put out, I believe, 16, 17 movies. I think it's a good chance for us to kind of look back and see which of his movies that we enjoyed the most. So Blake and I, we decided that we're gonna talk about our top five Kevin Smith movies. Now, Blake's list may be easier for him to put together because he has admitted he hasn't watched a lot of Kevin Smith movies. But again, am very curious as to hearing what those movies are and what they make the list. As we're doing this, love it if you would think about your favorite Kevin Smith
Mm.
movies and let us know in the comments what those are and if you agree with any of our lists here as we go through them here. So, you want to go through five through one or
Yeah. Oh, wait. I do 5 through 1 for me, and then you do yours, or 5, 5, 4, 4. What are you thinking?
let's do your list first and then we'll
Okay.
go through my list and then we'll take it from there.
Hell yeah. Okay. So, the seriously, throw it in the comments if there's what we're missing, or if you had a recommendation for someone who's in my spot, saw Clerks 3. I'm actually kind of mad because like this, I was before watching Clerks 3, I was like, oh, I want to do a Kevin Smith retrospective. I want to go watch the old ones. I
Sure.
want to get caught up on any of the ones I missed. And I just didn't have it in me after watching this one. So please feel free to recommend whatever the top. I'm curious what your top one is. I'm gonna go. Okay, it gets okay. Number 5 is the short film I mentioned earlier, Flying Car, and it's
Okay.
got Dante and Randal, a 7-minuter, which we didn't mention as part of the Clerks universe or the what's it, View Askew
View
universe, whatever
skew,
he
yeah.
calls. Yes. So I'm gonna go with that one for number 5, just because it's so short, and
And I
I
remember I remember this one too is because they're in traffic, right?
yep,
And they're talking about the flying car,
yep.
right? Yeah.
I love a movie that does that, honestly. I love My Dinner with Andre, and it's something I like about the original Clerks. It's just two people just talking,
Yeah.
and you don't need to have a whole whatever cinematic experience beyond that for it to be entertaining.
Mhm.
So then I'm gonna go with Clerks 2 for number 4, um, which I'm sure is colored by Clerks 3. My experience there. Well,
Sure.
I'm not gonna question it too much. Number 3. Zach and Miri Make a Porno? I remember really enjoying that in theaters. I have not
Nice.
revisited it. I'm kind of curious how it holds up. Kind of not sure I want to find out. But moving on, Dogma number 2 and
Nice.
Clerks number 1.
Okay. Awesome. But now why is Dogma number 2 for you?
Dogma number. So personally, I remember seeing it at a time in my life. I was raised
Mhm.
super religious, and I was excited about a movie like that. To
Okay.
me, at least, it was well written. It did a good send up of religion stuff. One, two, you got Chris Rock and George Carlin in a same movie that also
Yeah.
co-stars. I'm going off the top here, but I'm going to try to pull it up too. Ben Affleck, Matt
Mhm.
Damon, heard of him, and then Salma Hayek is the third lead, right?
Yeah.
And
And
then,
then Alan
yeah,
Rickman's also in it too.
oof, oh,
Yeah.
R.I.P. And Alanis Morissette, R.I.P. Alanis Morissette. I'm
Wait,
just kidding.
what?
She's still with us. So, yeah.
Like, huh?
Sorry, I'm being a jagged little pill. Wait, is that Alanis? That's Alanis Morissette, right?
That is
Okay.
Alanis,
Yeah.
yeah.
That I saw that one
Mhm.
in college type circumstances with my college buddies, and it was like it hit right that evening, and we're like, oh man, that was a special movie
Yeah.
experience.
Awesome. All right. So with me, my number five will be Jersey Girl. No, I'm just kidding. Of course not. It's Cop
No,
Out. What are you talking about? No.
no, don't
All right,
do
all right.
it.
I'll be serious. I'll be serious. My number five is Red State. Now, talking about Kevin Smith doing something completely different. This was the first time he went, he entered the horror genre, and he made this crazy crowdfunded. I think I crowdfunded or he funded it himself 100%. Horror movie that is basically very similar to a lot of the horror movies we see recently, where you're dealing with a bunch of teenagers who go to this one place under false pretenses. They get kidnapped by religious zealots and all that, and it's just this horrifying series of events within this group of people and all that. And uh again, it shows you another side of Kevin Smith that I was not aware he could do, and I thought it was really great. Shortly after that, he did Tusk, and again, that was another entry into the whole horror genre that was so out of left field that people to this day still talk about that movie Tusk. I think Red State should be in that conversation as something
Mm.
that is very different and very disturbing, and many times too. Um, my number four will go to Clerks 2. And I think the reason why, obviously, like I said before earlier in this episode, I was not sure how you could do a sequel to that original movie and still have it as equally funny, touching, and all that stuff, if not more. And he was able to accomplish it with this one. It's a progression of these characters. It added a new dimension to these characters as they're getting older too. So I thought everything gelled very perfectly well. And again, the acting so different than the acting we've seen in Clerks 3. It just makes me wonder what happened, right? What really happened there. Um, my number three is Dogma. So I really thought Dogma was a great, huge swing from Kevin Smith to talk about, religion and how it affects people, and kind of his parody and all that stuff. He got into a lot of trouble with this movie. He had so many people protesting and calling for the end of Kevin Smith and all that, but he was able to do something so controversial as far as subject matter, but have so many of Hollywood elite involved in it. Again, Affleck, Damon, Alan Rickman, George Carlin, Chris Rock, Selma Hayek, Alanis Morissette. It was just bizarre the amount of talent he had in this movie, and I really enjoyed it. I think I watched it recently, like maybe as of like 3 or 4 years ago, and I still found myself laughing at a lot of the stuff there, and really enjoying it. So definitely there on my list. My number two goes to Chasing Amy. Chasing Amy, again, one of those movies that at the time was very unheard of in making a movie like this, where the main character is, a straight guy who falls in love with a lesbian, and basically how the challenges and complications of all that. Plus, it also ties into, well, best friend and bromance and all that stuff, and interferences, and different takes and views on sexuality, and how to deal with it when you're not exposed to that kind of stuff. Now, I know some people today will watch that movie and say, well, this is a kind of movie that is wrong in all sorts of ways because you're trying to convert a lesbian to be straight and all that. It's more complicated than that if you actually give time to watch the movie and understand what he's trying to say there. It's more about just, human dynamic, and you can't help but love who you love, right? And how that could be challenging and things like that. So and again, Affleck, very early still on in his career, Jason Lee, and Kevin Smith's girlfriend at the time, I forgot the actress's name. She played Amy in
From
that, but
Chasing Amy?
yeah. Hmm.
Oh, well, why clearly, which I don't have this pulled up on Wikipedia whatsoever. Wait, why is it not actually? Her last name's Adams.
Oh, is it
I'm somehow
Joey
not able to.
Joey
Goodness
Adams,
gracious.
or
Sorry, is it Joey Lauren Adams? Is that the?
that's
Yes,
it.
Joey
Yes,
Lauren Adams.
yeah,
Thank
Joey
you.
Lauren Adams. Yeah,
Okay.
like I said, at the time was Kevin Smith's girlfriend. So she did a phenomenal job in that role too. I don't know where she is today, but um, really great stuff. And my number one is obviously Clerks, because again, if it wasn't for Clerks, then obviously none of this other stuff would have existed. Like I said, this helped me really fully understand way back then that there is more to film and cinema than what I was used to and accustomed to. And it opened up my mind in the dialogue, the way things are written, the way things were shot, how smart the movie was in many times. So I really, really appreciated it. And again, it made me learn to appreciate Kevin Smith for what he was at that time. Honorable mentions, Mallrats. I think Mallrats is just one of those movies that was perfect for that time it came out. It was also a lesson for Kevin Smith that once Hollywood comes in and gives you a giant budget, that he maybe was not ready for that. And he talks about bunches of stories about the disasters in making Mallrats. And yeah, I agree with you also. Zach and Mary Make a Porno was also very fun, entertaining to watch. Something that, what again, doesn't involve his usual cast of characters, that is refreshing in itself. So yeah, so there's our list of our top favorite Kevin Smith movies there. Again, our list may be very different than yours, and we want to know what that is. So let us know in the comments what your list of favorite Kevin Smith movies are. Or, you know what? If you hate Kevin Smith and you can't stand his stuff and you just watched us hoping that we were just going to bash him left and right, well, we hope we fulfilled some of that for you, but let us know why you don't like Kevin Smith. That'll be an interesting conversation to have as well. But with that being said, that has been Movie Time for this week, and we thank you once again for tuning in. Before we head out, Blake, where can people find you online?
On the website letterboxd.com with this username Blake Wolf SSN, where you can see I gave Clerks 3 1 star.
Ooh, brutal.
Yeah, sorry, Kev.
Brutal. It's okay. I completely I don't blame you. I don't blame you one bit. Do we have an update on your follower count?
I honestly don't check anymore.
Oh,
That stuff's not
okay.
important to
Oh,
me.
it's beneath you now. Okay.
Yeah. No, I've been on long enough. I do it more just love of the game.
Gotcha. Okay, that's fair. That's fair. That's very mature of you. I like to see your progression there. Uh, but as for me, obviously Loki Geek. You can find me Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, all that kind of stuff. If you're still not subscribed to this channel, why don't you just hit that button real quick? It doesn't cost you anything. Hit that like button as well. It helps with growing the channel, growing the community. And it also helps YouTube recommend other content that's very similar to ours. But more importantly, it helps you be a part of this great community that we're growing here. If you are returning, thank you so much for watching. Audio listeners, thank you so much as well. If you want an audio version of this show, you can find it Loki Geek podcast platform of choice. Just type that out, where you can download this and other episodes directly from there. But this has been Rene. That's been Blake. This has been Movie Time. Thank you so much. Until next time, stay cool, stay classy, stay safe. Peace out, y'all. Bye-bye.